Hey folks, and welcome to TK Power Sports. This is the 2024 Yamaha YXZ, one of the most thrilling pure sport side-by-sides on the market. Now that hasn't changed, but for 2024, there's a bunch of enhancements that have arrived for this model, and we have to talk about them. So in this video, we're gonna do a walk around, look at all the features. I'll show you inside and out, and then we might even have to sample launch control, so make sure you stay tuned. 2024, they have moved from the 5-speed transmission up to a 6-speed. Now the reason is not to do with top speed on this machine. It's all about slow speed crawling. Essentially, the complaint from owners is that first was never low enough, so you never had the torque to really feel in control picking through the rocks. Well, Yamaha added this new transmission and they made first gear 40% lower than it was before. So they didn't affect top speed, but they made that slow speed torque more accessible. So yeah, the YXZ should now just be better in a larger range of situations. Now, like I mentioned, it has auto, but there are 3 settings. It has regular auto, which is sort of your cruising mode. Then it has a more aggressive sport shift auto setting, and that means it's going to shift at a much higher RPM, really allow you to get the power out of this thing. And yes, this triple cylinder engine redlines over 10,000 RPM, so you can really ring it out. And then there is still just a sport shift mode, which means you still have to shift yourself. So yes, Yamaha is still one of the only brands offering a sequential shift transmission with those paddles, and it's one of the things that really sets this unit apart. But now for 2024, it's a 6-speed. Here come the important numbers. Overall length on this YXZ is 128 inches, width is 64.4 inches, and height is 69.4 inches. The wheelbase is a nice short 90.5 inches, and ground clearance measures in at 12.4 inches. The wet weight on this machine, which is the weight with all of the fluids, comes in at 1,624 pounds, and the fuel capacity is 7.5 gallons. Now, looking at this machine, you know, it's pure sport, so it's really defined by its suspension. This is a set of Fox Podium 2.5-inch shocks with remote reservoirs. On the front end, it's obviously a design feature that it pops out of the hood here and it looks really cool, but you can also adjust your compression right up there, so nice to be so accessible and easy to get to your shocks. Talking about travel, 16.2 inches of travel in the front, 17 inches of travel in the rear. Those are great travel numbers. Not up to the standards of sort of the top-end machines from Polaris and Can-Am, but still pretty dang good. And then for tires, because this is the base machine, we have a set of 29-inch Maxxis Bighorns. There's the power plant for this YXZ. That is a 998cc triple cylinder, making just over 100 horsepower. And although I think it's a little exposed, it is also great access, easy to get in here, change out spark plugs, exhaust, anything like that. Plus, it just looks incredible back here at the rear end of your unit. Now, another interesting change that came to the YXZ a few years ago is they moved the radiator back here. It's this high mount, rear mounted rad. The reason being, when you're flying down the trail, it's easy to plug up your radiator with dust, mud, sticks, anything like that, or damage it. Back here, it is absolutely protected. You're not going to have those issues. And of course, Yamaha made sure that you're going to get enough airflow to keep you cool. And then finally, we get a tiny little cargo deck here. It's not a lot of space. Again, most pure sport machines are not focused on bringing stuff with you, but you can put up to 300 pounds back here. It's just enough for a cooler, maybe a set of tools, something like that. And you do get 4 hard-mounted D-rings here, so you can properly secure things if you're dragging a box along with you. Let's climb inside now. Now, the first thing I want to show you, there's only interior door handles on the YXZ. The reason for this is because on the outside, door handles tend to get muddy and caked up with stuff. So in this case, yeah, you're never grabbing a muddy handle. You're always grabbing the clean interior handle. I think it takes a second to get used to, but once you live with it, I don't think that's a big deal. Now, before I climb in, let me show you this cover right here. So this guy pops off and reveals a couple interesting things. First of all, there's your air intake for your engine. So you also know exactly how deep you can go, no deeper than that. And then down here, great access to your battery, fuses, and also these little guys here. Now, if you want to install an accessory that needs power, Yamaha has pre-wired that for you. And for 2024, this machine now offers up to 1,000 watts of accessory power. That's up from just 470 watts previously. So they more than doubled the amount of power that you can actually run things with. Things like, you know, lights, whips, things like that that you might want to add on to your machine. Well, that's now easier than ever, which is nice. So now I'll hop in. We do get this excellent harness, which has one thing of note, which is this little piece of leather right here. I'm assuming it's real leather, certainly feels like it. It's nice because previously this buckle would end up rubbing on you and on your clothing and you could wear it out, whereas having that there is actually going to protect you and your clothes, which is pretty cool. And then the second clip goes up here on your chest. So yeah, like having the heavy duty harness. And then we can go over the controls. Everything in here is fairly basic. We still have just a physical parking brake. There is no park in the transmission here. The shifter is this sort of small electronic shifter. It's not sort of the physical shifter link you expect to feel. Down here on my right, I have my 3 4-wheel drive settings. You have 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, or diff lock. Now I should mention that the rear end on these machines is always locked. That cannot be changed. It's the front end that you're affecting. And when you're in 4-wheel drive, that acts as a limited slip in the front. And then of course turn it to diff lock and that locks up your front end. Below that, you get your lights. And then up here on the dash is your one other control. This is for the 3 shifting modes. So I mentioned you have auto, you have sport auto, and then sport shift. And in sport shift, you have to shift the paddles. It will not shift for you, sort of like how the YXZ started out. So you do get those options. Then talking about ergonomics, I can adjust my entire steering wheel and gauge cluster here. I like that they move together as well. So that's there. Now the paddles are fixed. They don't go with the wheel when you turn it. So that's one thing to be aware of. I kind of like paddles that are mounted to the wheel because if you are in the middle of a corner, you still have your hands right there rather than needing to move them to grab a gear. But still, they are quite big and that's the reason for that. It makes them easy to grab onto. And then just ergonomically, I fit pretty good in here. Again, I stand at 6'2", 300 pounds, but I have no issues. The seat is as far back as it can go. You can take that guy off. You can adjust it quite a few inches. Again, for me, I always go as far back as I can, but I fit in here good. Really nice dead pedal for my left foot so I can brace myself on that. I appreciate having that right there. And then the final thing I want to say is just what a sort of sporty, aggressive seating position this is. I feel like I'm sitting back. I'm sitting kind of low in the machine. My legs are kind of out in front of me. Has a bit of that sort of F1 cockpit vibe. And for a pure sport machine, that's exactly what you want. It adds to that direct, connected feeling. You're not sitting up straight. You're not up tall. You're kind of leaning back like this, and yeah, it just helps you feel more like you're at one with the machine, and that's truly what the YXZ is all about. Now, the final thing I'll mention is storage, and there's not a lot of it in here. Over here in front of the passenger, classic, you do get the massive glove box, and that's about it. Now, I mentioned this is the base model. If you want to go to the Yamaha accessory catalog, I'm sure they're happy to sell you lots of different storage solutions, but straight from the dealership, you're not bringing too much stuff with you when you hit the trail in your YXZ. There's one other feature I have to demo for you. That is launch control here. So I put my foot on the brake, you grab both paddles, you rev up between 5 and 10,000 RPM, then you drop those paddles, and away you go. It looks something like this. Well, folks, we are coming to the end of this one. Now, I do have to spit out the most important number, that is the price. So here in Canada, this YXZ 1000R Sport Shift will sell for $27,400. In the United States, this same model goes for $21,900. Now, I think the story with the YXZ is that the fundamentals haven't really changed since this machine was launched. Yamaha just keeps massaging the package to make it even better by doing things like moving that radiator, adding an automatic setting, and then, of course, for 2024, adding this new 6-speed transmission. So I commend Yamaha for constantly revisiting the package to make sure that it stays current and it's easy to access for the most amount of people. So like I said, that's it for this one. Now we're going to take this thing and do a full ride review with it, so don't worry, that little launch control was just a tiny taste. I'm actually really curious to go up rock crawling in some slow speed technical terrain and see how that first gear. But that is all waiting for another video, so make sure you stay tuned to the channel. And oh yeah, leave us a comment. Let me know what you think of the YXZ. While you're down below, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to TK Power Sports to see what we're testing next. See ya.